Today, the International Court of Justice will rule on South Africa's request to order a halt to Israel's Rafah offensive in Gaza.
Right, Shivan, and this after South Africa petitioned the ICJ for emergency measures asking Israel to cease its military operations in the Gaza Strip, in particular the Rafah city where it is pressing an offensive. In the last week hearing, South Africa accused Israel of committing genocide in Gaza, saying that it had hit a new and horrific stage with its assault on Rafah. While Israeli lawyers hit back at South Africa, calling it completely divorced from reality, making a mockery of the 1948 UN Genocide Convention it is accused of breaching.
South Africa has urged the World Court to issue a halt order to ensure the survival of the Palestinian people. The rulings of the ICJ, which judges on disputes between states, are binding, but they have no power to enforce them. Now, it is the fourth time that South Africa has appealed to the court, with Israel accusing the country of abusing the procedure. Back in January, the World Court ordered Israel to do everything in its power to prevent genocidal acts and enable humanitarian aid to Gaza, but the court stopped short of ordering a ceasefire.
Meanwhile, ahead of the World Court ruling, Israel has said that it will not be deterred from pursuing its war on Hamas. When asked whether Israel would comply with a possible ICJ ruling against it, the Israeli government spokesperson said that no power on earth will stop Israel from protecting its citizens and going after Hamas in Gaza.
No power on earth will stop Israel from protecting its citizens and going after Hamas in Gaza. We will destroy Hamas. We will return peace and security to the people of Israel and to the people of Gaza. We cannot go on with a genocidal terrorist regime on our southern border. We will destroy Hamas.
But for more on this, we now have with us Dr. Malcolm Davis. He's joining us live from Canberra. Dr. Davis is a senior analyst in defense strategy and capability at Australian Strategic Policy Institute. Thank you so much for being here with us today, Dr. Davis. Now, the ICJ will rule today on a request by South Africa to implement a ceasefire in Gaza. And just a day before the ruling, Israel has said that it will not comply with any orders from the World Court. What are the wider implications of the ruling today, especially at a time when we are witnessing Israel losing support in the global arena?
Well, look, I think I entirely understand Israel's position here. There is no equivalency between the actions of Israel and the actions of Hamas. And I would suggest that irrespective of what finding or resolution the ICJ come up with, Hamas will not stop their actions and their attacks against Israel. So Israel does have to continue to defend itself. I do think that Israel does have to defend itself in a manner that's consistent with international humanitarian law, but they do have the right to defend themselves against attacks by a ruthless terrorist organization. The challenge they face is that if they refuse this resolution, if they refuse the ceasefire, which they will, then it will become more difficult for the international community that is supportive of Israel to maintain that support, particularly in terms of political support and also arms shipments. And the key step that will go on from this is that whilst the ICJ resolution has no enforceability, it could prompt a UN Security Council resolution that does have enforceability to be put forward, and it's likely the US would then veto that resolution.
Dr. Davis, you mentioned that Israel needs to continue to defend itself. Given the way things are right now, do you feel it is defending itself at the moment, given the death toll on the Palestinian side?
Well, look, Hamas started this on October the 7th. Israel has retaliated. I do think that Israel needs to probably consider how it goes about its military operations to try and reduce the risk of civilian casualties. I think everyone understands that. But if Israel stopped fighting tomorrow and withdrew all their forces, firstly, there's no guarantee that Hamas would release the hostages. Secondly, there's no guarantee that Hamas would not then launch further October 7th style attacks on Israel. So that places Israel in a dilemma. On the one hand, they have to be able to fight against Hamas. They have to release the hostages. But on the other hand, in doing so, they do cause civilian casualties. They can certainly work to reduce those civilian casualties, but they are defending themselves because they know that Hamas have no intention whatsoever of allowing Israel to exist. And if they stop fighting, if Israel stops fighting and accepts a ceasefire, Hamas will go on the offensive and continue to attack Israel.
All right, Dr. Davis, thanks for sharing those insights. Of course, you've also done a bit of foretelling here regarding what happens next once the ruling is out. Thank you for those insights. Always a pleasure speaking with you and joining us here on World DNA. That was Dr. Malcolm Davis joining us from Canberra.
Thank you.